If you're solely relying on one creative to scale your business, your ad account is a ticking time bomb. In this video, I want to cover exactly how to diversify your winning creative so you can scale to higher budgets and you can finally hit those six-figure month in your business. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Javi and I specialize in the financial industry scale by implementing the exact same system that allowed me to scale my own company to seven figures. At this point, we help over 470 different funding companies, anywhere between 30-ish, 5K per month, all the way to $500,000 per month. So let's get right into it. So one of the first things I want to show you is why your creative is essentially dying at higher ad budget, okay? So I created this graph to visually show you what's going on. So in the left side here, we have essentially daily ad budgets, right? And then here in the bottom, we have quality of creative, okay? So I want you to think about daily ad spend, essentially like altitude in, let's say, like a mountain or something, right? The higher the altitude, the higher the ad budget, the harder it is for your ad to essentially breathe, because it's not good enough to, essentially live in the high altitude, okay? That's kind of like a good way for you to think about it. So let's say you created an ad, right? And you're spending $50 a day, okay? Your ad performed extremely well at this altitude or this level of ad budget. But what happens when you try to scale the same ad to maybe $500 a day or $5,000 a day, right? And it starts essentially, essentially KPI starts to drop, right? Your cost per book call increases, your cost to acquire increases as well. So essentially, it's getting more costly, right? When you scale your ad budget. The reason why this is happening, I want you to understand, is that one, that creative cannot sustain at higher ad budget, essentially higher altitude. Yes, it might perform great at $500 a day, but as soon as you put it at maybe $1,000 a day or $5,000 a day, it just starts, just starts taking a dump essentially. So how do we fix this? So there's multiple ways to fix this, but the short answer is, if you want to have just one creative at $1,000 a day, $2,000 a day, $3,000 a day, the creative needs to be so good that it survive in a broader market. Okay, that means the ad creative could go in outside its pocket, right, of the targeted audience and still performs. This is a little more difficult to do. So in order to bypass this, you could do what I'm about to show you, that essentially you do ad diversification of the winning ad to essentially, instead of having one creative spending, let's say, $1,000 a day or $2,000 a day or $5,000 a day, you have, for example, five winning creative at $1,000 a day, getting to that 5K a day in ad spend. All right. And this is pretty much what I've done. I literally last year, I spent over $500,000 on ads, about 570,000. So on average, I usually have about 2,000 or 1,700 ish in ad spend. And I usually have like 3 or 4 winning creative spending over $750 to get to that level of ad spend daily, okay? So let's go over a few things. So this is kind of like the visual representation of why your ad is essentially getting worse results at higher altitude. Quick answer, your ad is not as good as you think it is to survive in this higher altitude. So what you should do is essentially bring it back to that daily ad budget that was performing the best, leave it there, and then start doing this what I'm about to show you, okay? So one of the first things that I want you to think about is, first step, to test multiple hooks, right? And angles to determine which combination produces the highest ROI. Essentially the highest return on ad spend. That's one of the first things you have to do. Okay. Once we identify which angle and hook converts the best, the next step is to diversify that same angle using different creative formats. Okay. This is how I was able to scale to $2,000 a day and whatever ad budget, and this also, I have a lot of people, friends in the industry, they are spending, $10,000 a day, right? And I've seen their ad accounts and they kind of show me exactly how they get to that level of volume. And this is what most of the ad accounts I've seen that have been extremely successful, once they're doing like $2 or $3 million a month. This is usually how what the ad account looks like. Okay, so now let's say we have 6 hooks. Okay, so this is before you have your winning creative. So like, how do you get to a winning creative? Well, essentially you want to have 6 hooks. Here I wrote down 6. So let's say, for example, hook number 1, got a 700 plus credit score. Did you know you can turn that to 150K in business funding without talking to a bank? Tailor or hours of paperwork, right? That could be one hook. Second hook could be, tired of banks saying no. Here's how our clients are getting funded without tax return or collateral. Okay, another hook. If you had an extra 100K in funding this month, what would you fix first in your business? Okay, another hook. Startup. Before you max out another personal card or blow all your savings that took you years to get together, would you rather have their business funding at 0%? So that could be another hook. Okay, another could be business owners with a 700 plus credit score who plan to hire, expand, or invest in marketing this year. Build a 12-month game funding roadmap that allows you to access to X amount of days at 0% interest. Another hook could be, if you have a 720 credit score, did you know you're sitting on over 100K of business funding? Not only you can get approved for this much, but it's also at 0% interest, which is the cheapest debt on the market. Okay, so these are just some hooks that I just kind of created for this video. You can, by all means, if you want to test his hooks, let me know if you start crushing it or not. But there's just some hooks that I created because I know the market very well. So this was some hooks based on the qualification and the pain points that usually our client avatar is going through. Okay, so once we have one of these hooks, right, let's say we're testing each hook at $50 a day or $100 a day, and then one of them, let's say hook number 3, tends to pop off, right, and it starts making us money, right? So this one, hook number 3, starts making us money and has a really good cost per call, has a really good cost per lead, has a really good cost to acquire. Now, what do we do next? So essentially we have 2 options. Number 1 is we want to increase the budget of this creative. Well, let me kind of just show you here exactly what I mean by this. So essentially we have 2 options. First, when you want to scale to higher ad spend, there's 2 things you can do. Broaden the target, so the broader the audience, the more room the campaign has to spend, okay? Or run multiple winning creatives as each spending $500,000 or even $2,000 a day, okay? So what I'm saying by this is that you either essentially do ad diversification, right? Or scale that one ad set that you have $100 a day, increase it to 200, 500, 1,000, whatever, until the ad creative start getting worse results, essentially, like the KPIs drop, and you bring it back to its original budget. So essentially, it will be this. Okay. So to find the maximum scale of a winning ad, we lower the increased daily budget. We slowly, increase the daily budget, usually about around 20% a day. This helps us identify the breaking point, essentially, of which level of altitude, as I was saying before, the ad starts to decreasing in results. Okay. For example, as an ad campaign grows $1,000, $1,200 a day, we monitor the KPIs very closely, almost daily, especially the higher spend. You got to look at this daily. If performance begins to drop, we push back the creative to its optimal range. What we do essentially is bring it back to the original budget that is performing the best. Okay. So there's one way of scaling, essentially just put in the budget 20% a day until we find out the ceiling or the highest altitude that ad creative could perform. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Option 2 is to today, let's say that your winning creative is spending $50 a day, jump it to $100 a day, right? And then every 4 days, you want to increase it by almost double, or sometimes you can also do the 20% model, but every 3 days or so. So if you want to be a little more risky, scale it at 20% every day. Or if you want to be a little more conservative, raise it about 20% every 3 to 4 days. Okay, so I'll give you an example here. Now, once we find that ceiling, what do we do, right? So let's say the ceiling is $500 a day or $1,000 a day. And then you notice that after this budget, the more you push it, the lower quality or the lower the KPIs become. This is when you got to create diversification of winning hook, okay? So let's say this hook right here, right, is this video right here. So you recorded it maybe in your office, you recorded it, well, who knows how you recorded it, this video, right? Whatever the format may be. This is just a traditional video format, right, that I record here in my office. And the hook is, let's say, this one that I have right here, right? The green one. Okay, so winning hook, the format, it could just be standard. You're looking at the camera, talking. Now, what you need to start doing is, how can I create different versions of this exact winning hook, right, to test out, essentially to not even test out, well, obviously we're testing, but to gather different people or different audiences, that different ads. The thing is for some reason, different ads have different effects on different people. So let's say the video ad, it might not convert people that convert with, let's say, B-roll or statics or carousels. So that's why you want to diversify your winning hook into different ad formats, because some people react different to different styles of ads, and you don't want to miss out on essentially, extra revenue by not testing these different formats. Okay, so we have this ad creative that is essentially, me in the office just yapping my life away. Okay, so we know this winning hook works. Now let's say this ad is at $500 a day, right, at ad spend. Okay, so it's spending $500 a day. Now we noticed that we went to 750 and it completely took a dump, so we brought it back to 500, and now we gotta start doing diversification of winning hooks. So what this looks like essentially is this, right? Should we try the same hook, let's say podcast style? So essentially, instead of you directly look at the camera, can we have like essentially like a podcast style and almost make it seem like we're being interviewed? Okay, so essentially you're just like looking at the person you're talking to, and it's a different angle of the same copy and the same hook that is originally working. Okay, so that could be one diversification, like one essentially the slowest way we could change that. Okay, another one could be is, can we do it in a static ad? Right? So this is a static of my offer, and I'm essentially just describing what my offer is in one picture. So can the copy and the hook that you're saying, can it be essentially explained in a static? Okay, or can it be explained in a carousel format, right? Like maybe you have, here's only like 5 pictures of carousel, but maybe you can have 6, you can have 7, you can have 8. The amount of slides doesn't really matter, but can you describe the same essentially copy that you had in this first ad into a carousel? Then can we have it in a B-roll, right? The B-roll could be if you're working in the office, okay? Or can it be like a static of like a Twitter ad, like a tweet ad, or it could be a static of a notes ad. This notes ads have, this both of us has, both ads creative have worked really well for us in the past. So you could try this, but essentially, how can I create that copy and that winning hook? How can I essentially have a different format of saying it? Okay, so here we have, let's say, AI generated ads. So can we drop our essentially our copy or our hooks into ChatGPT, Nano Banana, Grok, any of this really good AI generated images, right? And generate an image according to the copy that you're having. So these are 2 ads that our AI has made by just us giving them essentially like the hooks, the copy, and it just generates something that could essentially say what you're saying in the whole copy into a picture. All right. Now, what about if we could maybe do a demonstration, right? So let's say if that hook or that copy that you're saying, is there a way that we could create like a whiteboard session or like whatever, like a demonstration type of ad? You get me? Like, can I present this hook and this copy in a form of me teaching it? All right. And another one could be a simple B-roll. Like this is just a B-roll of we were just recording in the backyard and the sunset was rising. I'm like, oh, this is a very pretty shot. And essentially this copy right here, this headline, have worked with us really well in all the different ads. All I did was just copy in here and copy and paste. And voila, we have really good results with these ads. So that'll be the best way for you to get to those higher budgets. If you already have an ad that's giving you great results, think about, okay, first, let's raise the budget to find the ceiling or the highest altitude that this ad can survive on, right? Second is, how can I create diversification of this same ad creative? So in different formats, right? The best that I've seen are the ones that I described here, but you can test as much as your heart desires or your ad budget allows it, right? So you can find different formats that will allow you to create those higher budgets. Because in order for you to hit, let's say, 6-figure per month, like 100K per month consistently, you got to spend at least 10. Well, honestly, it depends on your closing rate, but let's say just to, on average, what I've seen over, helping over 407 different companies, usually 15 to 20K ish is where you want to be at if you want to start getting into the 100K per month. But again, you need to have either one creative that could withstand a higher daily budget, which is harder to do, or you find a creative, right, that it could survive, let's say, at $500 a day. And then if it's at $500 a day, can we find 2, 3, 4, 5 more that have the same level of budget? So that way you have, let's say, 5 ads, 5 creatives, right, with 5 winning hooks, essentially with $500 of ad spend. That way you're spending at least $2,500 a day. You get me? And that's how you're gonna get to 150K a month in revenue, 200K in revenue, whatever the number is. Okay. But the hardest part is honestly just this. This will be the hardest part, finding a winning angle that you can go all in. So if I was you right now and you don't have a winning angle, just try this format. You don't have to copy these exact ones, just get creative. Try to come up with 10 different hooks. The bodies could be the same, the CTA could be the same, but you can have 10 different hooks, 10 different angles essentially. Test them out. Once you have one that is bringing you essentially clients and the cost to acquire is, profitable, essentially, it has a good return on ad spend. Once you identify that creative, maximize it as much as possible, increase the budget until you find the ceiling. Once you find the ceiling, diversify that winning creative hook and copy into different formats of ads. And this is how you get to that really, really high ad spend daily. Okay. So if you're struggling to essentially increase your ad budget, and it keeps happening to you that quality just keeps on dropping, KPIs keep on dropping whenever you scale the ad creative, just always think about back to this graph that is your creative, your current creative right now doesn't have enough essentially oxygen to survive in those higher altitude. Okay, it has a ceiling. So for you to bypass that, you either keep it at the ceiling that you know is going to work and give you a really good return on ad spend, and then just have multiple ads essentially at the same level, right? All spend the same thing. What you could do as well is maybe this ad, like ad number two, like maybe it's a B-roll, or maybe it's a carousel, or maybe your winning creative is a static, and now we got to turn that static into a video. But maybe this one could actually survive in higher budgets. So you could definitely test the winning angles, right? The winning formats, the different formats, the diversification ones into different ad spend, right? Because maybe this one survives only at $500 a day, but maybe this one survives at $1,000 a day or $500 a day. You get me? If you want, you can test that out, and then as soon as it starts to bring lower results, you can bring it back to the KPIs. Okay. So that's it for this video. I hope you're understanding exactly how to increase your ads budget. This is often changing. So if you're watching this video a year from now, it might not work. So be very careful. But usually ads, the way you scale them has been the same for a while. But we don't know when Meta has a new update that this kind of just changes and it doesn't become useful anymore. So just be very conscious of when you're watching this video and how long has it been since I released this video, because it might not work. Okay. And also, if you want help of us scaling your ad creative and getting to 100K per month or beyond, you can click the link below. Click the link below. I'm sorry, and work with us one-on-one. Or if you want to just learn funding as a service and add that to your business, if you're a tax consultant or credit repair business, or even insurance or real estate, and you want to increase lifetime value by offering funding as a service to existing clients, you can click the link below. And inside our school, we actually show you how to essentially do business funding as a service.